welcome to the Andy Social Podcast. My name is Andy, and thank you very much for downloading, streaming, whatever it may be to obtain this audio recording. I am extremely thankful and it's greatly appreciated. Welcome back to all the people that have been loyally listening. Loyally? Is that the right word? Yeah, it'll do. I've been listening for a while now. Thank you so much for coming back, and a big hello and welcome to the first-time listeners. Hope you enjoy this one. I think it's a pretty good episode, if I do say so myself. And I will lie when I say this. I promise not to waffle on too much, but I do. So there you go. First and foremost, before we kick into everything, a bit of housekeeping. This episode and all episodes can be found on andysocial.net. You can also listen to them on it's our, why not? It's all of ours. Our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/c/Andy Dowling. You can just search for the Andy Social Podcast on YouTube. You can find it there. There's heaps of other videos there, as well as my morning little podcast that is called Crazy Talk with Andy, because I couldn't think of anything better to call it. And what that is 30 minutes each morning when I'm driving the crack of dawn and just basically dribbling. I'm just talking about whatever I can think of, something that's happened the day before or things that are coming up, a bit of the day-to-day happenings. I figured it's better than what's on morning radio. So, it's there on YouTube. It's only on YouTube, that one. And it's usually uploaded between 7:30 and 8:30 a.m. each Monday to Friday. That's Sydney time for you international people. I've been doing that for a couple of weeks now, and it's pretty good. It's a lot of fun. I usually spend a lot of time talking to myself in the car, so I figured I may as well document it and record it. And whether anybody listens to it or not is not really a big deal. It's nice to have something vaulted there, and if I ever need to go back and have a listen to where my head was at one point in time, then I've got plenty of material to to reflect on. So everything's there on YouTube. It's a great way of spreading the podcast around. So if you feel like sharing the love, YouTube links are probably the best way to get people into podcasts in general, or into mine specifically. So you can find all the individual episodes on there and just copy the link and share it on your social media platforms. Speaking of social media, I'm all over Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr. I think I even got a Vine account the other day. I haven't used it yet. I'm on Periscope as well. I haven't really used that for a while now, but I'm there on that. And I don't know, I'm sure I'm on a few other ones that I can't think of. But if you just search for Andy Dowling on any of those platforms, you will find me on there. So like, comment, share, all those things that are all great on social media. It all helps the podcast reach more people. And if you want to go one step further, you can also go onto iTunes and rate and review this podcast. I haven't asked for that for a while. I keep forgetting. That's a great way of getting the podcast up the charts, so more people can check it out and discover some of the awesome guests that I've had on the podcast and have on this episode. I'll use that as a segue. I'll leave the rest of the housekeeping for the outro of this episode. But this week is the end of my three-parter. I'm calling it a three-parter because you all know by now that the Drum Wars tour with the Appice brothers, or the EP60 brothers, depending on who you speak to in the band, are coming here in February. So that's Carmine Appice, or Carmine Appice, and Vinny Appice. So I won't go into too much background about who they are. You should already know who they are. And if you don't, then go back to the last two episodes where I had them on the podcast, which was a lot of fun. But they're coming out for their Drum Wars tour in February. And not only will I be playing bass for the band, but Mike Mills, famously known from Toehider, will be on guitar as well. So this week I've had the pleasure of sitting down with Mike at his house in Melbourne, and that's where I've been earlier this evening, and now I'm at the hotel, and just had a great chat with him. We talked about the upcoming shows with the Appice brothers, talked about our love of Dio, and and just talked about all things Toehider. I mean, Mike's an amazing musician. I've been a fan for years. I've been lucky to even play a show with. We've played shows together in our respective bands, but we've actually shared the stage as well quite a few years ago. It was a year after Ronnie James Dio's death, and we did a tribute show down here in Melbourne. So there was, it was a night filled with Dio classics from his solo stuff, Sabbath and Rainbow, and we had a little 3-piece going with Peter Marin, who's the current drummer in Passenger. For all you music nerds, you'll know who they are, quite big in Europe. So the three of us got together quite a few years ago and did a really cool Dio tribute set. So it's quite funny that Mike and I are going to relive some of those Dio songs, but with a fully fledged member of Dio being Vinny Appice. So that'll be really cool. But this is a really cool chat. It's nice to catch up with Mike. It's been ages since I've I've seen him. I haven't seen him for quite some time and had a chat. So it was good to catch up and just shoot the shit for an hour or so. And I would highly recommend that you check out Toehider. Toehider's been out for a few years now. Been out for a few years like it's a product. Toehider's been around for a few years and there's quite a few releases. I won't go through it all, but I highly recommend getting the latest EP called Mainly Songs About Robots. That actually features Vinny Appice on drums, which is really, really cool. You can grab that from Bandcamp. So I would assume it'll be something like toehider.bandcamp.com. I could be completely wrong there. I didn't look that up. But if you search for Toehider Bandcamp, you'll find it easy. It's a great way to get the songs really quick and easy. I can't speak enough about Bandcamp, but I'll leave that for another episode. But it's a great platform and an easy way to support artists, including Mike Mills. So enough rambling. I'll leave the rest of the rambling for the end of the episode, but I really hope you enjoy this and make sure you reach out to Mike and let him know what you think of this episode as well. And of course, his music. So please enjoy this episode with Mike Mills. So we're going to improv like jazz musicians.
Yeah. How are you, Andy?
Very well, yourself?
Yeah, good, man.
We're sitting at your house in Airport West.
In the good old Airport West. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Paradise.
Living the life.
Certainly easy to get here from the airport.
Yeah, that's like about the only benefit, I think.
It
takes like 10 minutes or something.
Well, I told the taxi driver, I said, it's not far down the road. I said, Airport West. And he goes, is that it?
Yeah. Well, that's like the story of my life when I have to get a some sort of taxi from the airport to my house because like I think those taxi guys like line up for hours.
Yeah.
And then, once they find out you're only going 10 minutes down the road, they get it's like a $20, $30 fare and then they have to go and line up again.
We used to have that when I lived in St. Peter's near Sydney Airport, and it was about the same distance, or might even be less. And there was one time where we played in Japan and just exhausted, and I had like 10 days of just really polite Japanese people. And so I came back and I was buggered, and then I get into the cab and I tell him where to go. He goes, that's bullshit. I've been waiting in line for an hour and a half. And I said, mate, I've just spent 10 days being treated like a king. I don't need this shit. And you're at the international airport as well. What's this sort of greeting for people coming into the country?
Yeah.
I said, that's okay. I'll get out. I'll tell the guy that you don't want to take me and I'll get the next one. No, don't worry, mate. You do it. And then he's trying to explain how hard it is and how much money he doesn't make and all this sort of stuff. I was like, just get me to my
just
house,
don't do the work then. Just find some other job.
Yeah.
If you haven't got the temperament and the patience and the understanding that that's how the thing works, then don't do that kind of work. It's pretty simple.
It's probably wonder why people go to Uber now.
Yeah. Oh man.
That stuff.
Yes. It's like it's definitely shaken the whole thing up, which is great. Are you on the Uber thing yet?
I am, but I keep changing it when I go overseas. So you change your phone number because you need like a local number.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in Europe and I had like just this really cheap, shitty Spanish SIM card. And today I was sitting around. I go, fuck, I've got to update the phone number, and I'm clicking on it, it wouldn't let me. And so I was going through all the the help menus, and it says, "Oh, if you've got the new app and you can't load your new number or change your number, please fill out this form." So I filled it out, and that was 7 hours ago. And I got to the airport and checked it. Didn't work.
Oh, man.
Oh, yellow taxi then.
Damn.
Yeah, normally I do it. And then in the US, they've got a competitor over there called Lyft.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very Americanized. I don't think it's anywhere else, but you can, at the end of the fare, like it's all linked to your card, so you don't have to hand over cash, but you can select if you want to tip them. So instead of having that awkward thing at the end of the thing, go, oh, here's $1 or here's $5 or whatever, you just get out, see ya, whatever. And then afterwards it goes, oh, rate this person. It's like, oh, would you like to give them $0, $1, $3, $5, $10 or whatever? Yeah. And so, oh, yeah, okay, one. That's, but that was really cool. I really
so it's not like forced tipping like it is in like restaurants and stuff, yeah?
Yeah, that's hard. Even in Europe, like in some places, they've just milked the fact that there's tourists. Like in Prague, they go, oh, if you're in the city centre and you're a tourist, you're expected to tip. If you're a local, you don't have to tip.
Yeah, right.
I go, that's just so cuntish. Like, you shouldn't be doing that at all. And so they'd sit there, they'd stand there and go, here's the receipt, here's the bill, and that's the suggested tip. I'm like, oh, fuck, yeah, I know. And, like, I shouldn't complain because it's like in Prague, it's like 50 cents or something like that to tip, if anything. So, and they're stoked if you give them like $1. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. Please come back. I'm like, oh, no worries. But I hate it. It's so, like, it fucks with my head, especially like, I remember once being somewhere and a guy was taking bags out of the back of like an airport shuttle, and he was standing there waiting for money. And so I gave him $1, and I thought, oh man, I'm such a tight ass. And I thought, nah, stuff that. That guy probably does 100 people a day and gets $100 in tips. And I just have to keep sort of working it. But
right.
Yeah, but the joys of paying people, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, digress straight away. So I think we're playing some shows together.
Yes. Yeah, we are. It's kind of, it's actually a bit of a dream come true for me, I have to say, getting the chance to work with Vinny Appice and his brother Carmine. Like I've still got, like, you know, picture this, Andy. Picture, how old are you?
I forget, 32.
Yeah, right. I'm 37. And so like in the 90s, like when, you know, bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and freaking Green Day and what's the other one? Oasis, all this stuff. Like I couldn't, I love it all now, but you know, back when I was a teenager, I just couldn't identify with it at all. And I had a science teacher who, I think, you know, because I was into Iron Maiden, because everybody was into Iron Maiden who wasn't into that kind of stuff, I guess, or like people's older brothers or whatever. And I think I had like Iron Maiden on one of my school files, and my science teacher saw it, and he just started talking about all bands, and he lent me he lent me actually a Rainbow album, which is the On Stage, was the live album, and then that must have come from the Deep Purple thing, because of Richie Blackmore, and I was like, man, who's this singer? And then he's like, yeah, this is, you haven't heard of Ronnie James, do you? What the hell's the matter with you? You know? So I was like 14 or something. And then he lent me Holy Diver. And then I was just, and it was just immediately just became obsessed with everything that Dio was doing. But you know, I don't have to tell you, but maybe I have to tell some of the listeners that back then it was just impossible to find stuff. Like, you couldn't just Google someone and find out all of the work that they'd done or whatever. It was kind of just this massive hunt for looking. I
forget how hard it is. Like now, like someone tells me, oh, I should check something out, and like 10 seconds later, I'm already listening to a song. Like, you just find something streaming or on YouTube, and it's just so easy, and you forget how we used to have to try and get each other into music, or dubbing like the third or fourth cassette over and just losing the quality and just to try and discover stuff is insane.
It's funny. I've got I don't have the tape anymore, but I taped my friend's dad's Power Slave record, and it skips during the duelists or something. So even when I listen to the real
You're
song
still
now,
waiting.
I still hear it like with this little skip in it. Yeah. So yeah, I immediately started to just digest and consume all of everything that Dio had done. Like I found all of the early Elf albums and I think the three studio albums and the live album that he did with Rainbow, and then obviously the 2 Sabbath records and the live Sabbath, and then all of the Dio solo albums. And I think around that time he just released like Strange Highways, which is like the 90s, when I don't know, it's kind of like, people often sort of say that it was like the shittiest part of his stuff, but because it was like, it's 14 years old and, just so hungry for that kind of thing, and it was his most current work, I just really took to it instantly. And then
such
the
a
next
heavy album as well. That Pain song.
Man.
It's such a ball kicker.
Yeah. And the opening track was one of my favorite Dio songs. And then Strange Highways was the next one. And then, and all the while I was just really into like who we had in the band, and, how we had, like Craig Goldie was on the Dream Evil thing, and that Rowan Robertson, I think, was like this 16-year-old guitar player.
Oh, yeah.
And I always used to like fantasize about, oh man, imagine if that was me, like having just been plucked from obscurity, like all of a sudden been playing with someone like Dio or something. It'd be awesome. And then the Vinny Appice thing, I found, so I found a VHS copy of, I think it was called Spectacle at the Spectrum or something like that.
Yeah. The dragon.
Yeah, man, yeah. Because a friend bought it, a friend's brother bought it because he was a huge Sabbath fan, but he hated the Dio solo stuff. It's like too, like, I don't know, it wasn't heavy enough for him or something. But I just stole it off him and just used to watch it over and over and over. And then Vinny's massive drum solo on that. And
those ridiculous drums, those like big side wall toms.
And he had that thing where he just had a circle of toms all around him. So his chair would swivel around and he could just play this constant fill. Yeah. Going all the way around. Oh man, it's amazing. So and then I got Vinny and Carmine did a Drum Wars tape in the 90s, which I think they're trying to do it like a wrestling kind of video where they were talking trash about one another, and then it was filmed. They filmed this gig that they did, and with Jennifer Batten playing guitar. Batten, Jennifer Batten.
I know of a Batten. Let's just go.
Yeah, let's go Batten. Yeah. And it was just, that was a friend of mine's. He managed to find it somehow. I don't know how the hell he tracked it down. So anyway, and then, I don't know, the 2000s, like, I guess for me, the least exciting Dio albums were the ones that Vinny wasn't on, or he didn't play on Lock Up the Wolves, which had some cool songs, but mostly I just couldn't really, I don't know, like that kind of stuff was over for him. Like he was still trying to go with with what he was, what was the album before that, Dream Evil. But then with Strange Highways, it kind of was his reinvention, and he got Vinny back, and I'd love to know why he didn't play in that era. Anyway, and then that was Vinny's last album as well with Dio, was Strange Highways, and then there was the 2000s stuff, the Killing the Dragon again and all that. Oh no, it was Magica.
Yeah, Magica. I don't think he did Killing the Dragon. I think there's that.
Simon Wright was on both. Yeah, it was on both of those albums. Yeah. So neither of them, like I listened to those albums and they're great, but neither of them really, I don't know, really stood out for me. It was always that excitement that he brought, and just playing. He would just play these really unique, kind of really cool fills in places that you wouldn't expect them to be. And
if you watch him, he looks like he's about to just lose control. Just the way he's playing, just looks like this chaotic style of drumming. Yeah. And he's sort of going, like, I remember when I first like saw him play, just young and not knowing what the hell I'm watching, I'm like, does this guy know how to play drums? Like, I'm not listening. I'm just watching him because he just looks like he's just so erratic with his drumming. But
and it's all arm and it's all elbow. Like there's not much.
And
wrist
that's probably
movement.
what it is. And so because his whole arm's moving, his whole body's sort of moving with the arms going up and down. Yeah,
just total power.
Yeah.
Which was just so remarkable because he's got this finesse about what he does as well, and it comes from such massive movements. So it's like, man, I just can't wait to like be in the room and just listening to like how, because he's got this reputation for being like a really loud drummer. Yeah. So it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, he's when I spoke to him the other day, he was like just carrying on about, just got to turn it up, just crank it, like just because I asked them both. I go, all right, so I'm going to be playing bass. What bit of advice do you have for me for both of the shows? And so Carmine said, just lock in with the guitarist. Don't pay attention to us because we're just going to go off and just do all this crazy stuff and you're just going to get lost straight away. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, no worries. and then Vinny's just like, learn the songs. And I was like, all right, cool. And he's like, no, it'll be all right. We'll work it out, you know. So, but they seem really cool. Vinny's definitely, I think Vinny's a little bit more personable.
Yep.
Carmine was cool, but I think he's got a few more years on Vinny, and I think he's very much he's very aware of what he needs to plug, and he was in interview mode.
Yeah, sure.
And Vinny was a little bit like that, but he was a bit more attentive and was going backwards and forwards with different things.
Yeah, so, cool.
He's a lot more personable, but they seem cool. I think they're certainly going to be characters.
Yeah. Well, Carmine, it's like, I'm convinced the only reason Carmine a piece. That's right. They tell the story about how they pronounce their last names differently, which is awesome. The only reason Carmine a piece isn't like a John Bonham household name guy is because he's still alive and kicking. Let's be honest. Like the reason Bonham, like there's the story of when Vanilla Fudge were out touring and their support act was Led Zeppelin, and John Bonham was like a huge Carmine a piece fan, and Carmine got him the Ludwig endorsement and like all of the signature licks that Bonham did were lifted from what Carmine does, even though Carmine sort of says, no, he sort of made it his own thing, but you listen to those old albums, those old Vanilla Fudge albums, it's just really obvious where he got it from. So it's like, could you imagine being in that position where, you know, you basically had this stuff that you came up with popularized by someone else, and it's kind of associated with this massive thing. There's got to be like a little bit of like, oh man, damn it, you know, like, oh, that's my shit.
Oh, I'm still alive, damn it. Why are these guys getting all
Well, there's that, yeah. So I suppose it keeps him humble.
It's crazy. I mean, like for me growing up, I always saw like Vinny was Dio and Sabbath, and so I knew him from that, and like the Hungry for Heaven video clip where he's like doing the big side toms.
Yeah.
But Carmine, like I think because he wasn't playing with these prolific bands sort of later into the 80s, into the 90s, he'd already built a reputation as a musician himself and as a drummer that he wasn't so much associated with all these big artists by that point in time. He'd already made his name. So for me, the only thing I knew of him really is I knew he was the brother, and I knew that he was a drummer, and I just saw him as this dude with this really seedy mo. And
exactly.
I went, that
well, that's the thing. Because like I watched heaps of Spinal Tap, you know, and you just kind of like that look has to have been modelled from Carmine, right? Yeah. Surely, like I'm never gonna ask him, because surely, like, I don't want to start that conversation, but it had to have been that, you know. And plus, when I was a kid, you know, I was in knee deep, or freaking neck deep into metal, and then hearing Carmine co-wrote and played with Rod Stewart, it's like, nah, I don't care about this guy, you know.
That's it.
But then he didn't play on Bark of the Moon, but he did that tour.
Yeah.
And I've checked out some of the live footage, and it's freaking phenomenal. Like his playing is just unbelievable.
I just remember going back and looking into like who he is and what he's done, and then like from Bonham to Neil Peart to pretty much every top tier rock and metal drummer.
Cite him as an influence. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just like a real drummer, I guess. Yeah.
I go, really? And I mean, I've never played drums, so I've never sort of gone down that path of seeing who the big guns are in that domain. So it was insane. And then he put together this like instructional book in like the early 70s, and he like
which no one had really done in a rock context before. Yeah, exactly.
And he just said like he went into a music store and was reading the ones that were there, and they were just shit. And he goes, "Oh, I could do a better one." So like, you know, a few months later, he had one. And he published it, and he said, and he was lucky because he signed this really what he thought was a crap deal, where he didn't get an advance, or it was like a tiny, like a few $100. But he owned the copyright, and he didn't get it. He didn't understand what that was. Like,
right.
Oh, okay, it is what it is. And now, like he said, something like he's earned over $1 million from that book, and he keeps revising it every few years or whatever. Just like now, it's called like, I don't know. So it was like the ultimate blah blah. Now it's like the very ultimate or something. You just keep adding another adjective to the start. Yeah,
yeah, cool.
It's it's insane. Like, and then like with this tour that's coming up, and the way that these podcasts will go is I've got Carmine hopefully this week.
Yep.
I'll have Vinny next week, and then I'll have you the week after. So we'll have him in sequence there. But Doug from Hardline contacted me and Tim from our band and said, "Would you guys be keen?" And I just went back and said yes. Just didn't even think. I didn't even know what the songs were, whether I could play them or not. I just went yes. I'll worry about the rest later. And then he sent the set list through, and then Tim was looking at the set list, and then he had a couple of other things that going around that time.
Yeah, right.
And he was so umming and ahhing. He hadn't actually made a decision. And I thought, I'm just going to send Mike a text and just go, hey, heads up, just in case this happens.
Actually, speaking of plugging things, I'll just cut you off for a second.
Do it.
I actually got Vinny to play on my last EP called Mainly Songs About Robots. So I'll continue with that story after
all right. Stay tuned. And so there's two reasons for contacting you. One was, yes, because you'd just done this thing with Vinny, and I thought it's weird that like they're approaching other people. Like I thought that, oh, hey, we've already got the guitarist and we're looking for a bass player now. So I thought, I better give you a heads up in case you either didn't know or you tried and got knocked back or whatever. And the other thing was that we did the Dio show however many years ago.
It was like a year after Ronnie died, 2010, I reckon it was.
Yeah.
2011.
That's the last time I was here as well.
Yeah, that's right.
It's crazy. So I thought, this is perfect because there's a heap of Dio songs in there. And I thought, well, that's going to make life so much easier because we've had a bit of experience playing some of these songs. And it's kind of cool just to sort of bridge the gap and do the circle again. So and so it ended up working out really well. I mean, it still would have been good if Tim was playing, but
definitely.
I was certainly happy that it sort of worked out the way it had. So and on the topic of your EP, I did ask Vinny about it. And I was like, "Oh, so how did it happen?" It's like, and he mentioned like you made contact with him, and he goes, "Oh, I don't normally do like everyone's stuff, blah blah, but I really digged it." He goes, "It's not sort of metal, but it's like just really sort of really hard sort of rock sort of stuff, and really loved it." And he's got his own like studio set up in his house and everything, right, so it seemed really cool. But was it a hard thing to sort of go backwards and forwards with location and?
No, I just think So how that all happened was that I had this idea for a song which I was thinking, wow, that's a really cool groove, and then I realized that it was how he used to start his drum solo. This groove that was already a song. Back on an old record that he played on in the early 80s. So I was like, I can't use that. I don't know. It's one of those grooves that are just stored away in my brain. I haven't heard it for years. So I somehow tricked myself into thinking that I'd come up with it. It happens all the time. And so I just thought, man, wouldn't it be great to get, someone cool like Vinny Appice to play on some songs, but get them, in the case of Vinny, like it would have been, he's such a groove oriented drummer, I've always just thought it'd be cool to hear him play on something that's not necessarily in that Dio mold of metal, something that's still rocking, but not necessarily down that path. So I contacted him and I sent him some of my older stuff and he was like, yeah, it sounds great. So we just worked it out and he recorded all of us in his studio at home. And it turned out great. Like I think, again, in hindsight, maybe it would have been super cool if I had the opportunity to be in the room with him playing the tunes. so we could sort of vibe off each other, you know, because he's an older school guy. I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, but he's kind of, I guess he's in his late 50s or something, mid 50s.
The music sort of lends to that as well. Like, those songs sort of have got that old school jam vibe to them anyway.
Yeah, for sure. So it was kind of like, it would have been cool to do it in that environment, like the way they used to make albums. But because we're over the other side of the world here, I had to send him demos of the songs, and then he'd play to those demos and then send the files back. So it had to be to a click track, for example. And I don't know how like, obviously none of those old Dio albums are to click tracks. You know, it's just the sound of a band. So I think it worked well, considering how, you know, my idea of having it, you know, having it in a band kind of environment, even though it was over the internet. I think it came out okay, you know. But it'd be good to do something else. I wish he was in town for longer, you know, so I could hire a studio and actually go and play, you know, get him for a couple of days to get him to play on some more songs. But I just don't think it's going to happen. So then that happened, and then cut to a year later, I saw that they had announced that they were bringing their Drum Wars show to Australia. So I immediately just sent him an email and said, if you need a guitar player or a singer or both, or a bass player, because that's one of the first things he said to me. He was like, who's played bass on this? This is some great bass playing. I was like, it's just me, you know. I've never really played bass outside of a studio environment, you know what I mean? So then I started thinking, maybe this is like, you know, I could make my debut stage playing bass, you know, the debut stage performance playing bass. But I said, so if you need any of those three things, then just keep me in mind. And so he wrote back and said, yeah, freaking awesome. I'm not sure what's happening yet, but I'll find out. Yeah. And then it must have been like a day or two after that, you got in contact and was like, you should totally get on board with this. Yeah. And so then it all just seemed to work out from there.
That's cool. Like, it's weird how things pan out. And I mean, for me, it's like so cool. Like, even you mentioning before, like memories of buying albums and whatnot and discovering like Dio and Sabbath and all that sort of stuff. And the same sort of thing for me, and like just buying like, you know, Last in Line or Sacred Heart, especially. Sacred Heart was the first one, like Hungry for Heaven and Rock and Roll Children and all that sort of stuff. That was like what I discovered. And
the King of Rock and Roll was the first song. Man, what a great song. Yeah.
And it's so for me, I like this sort of, it's weird, like it's this surreal sort of thing, hasn't even sunk in. But I think for you it'd be even cooler because you've got that, but then you also already had a taste of where you've been able to create original music.
Yeah, totally.
Something that you've come up with yourself, and then you've been able to get him to be able to be a part of your creation. And now that's as you said, like it's over the internet. You've got to send files backwards and forwards. You're not in a live sense. And now it's not quite the same, but at least you get that sort of full circle where you get to play with him now, playing the songs that he was a part of as well.
Yeah.
It's just so cool.
Super exciting. And it's the same thing as it's kind of quite a surreal thought still. And it was kind of nervous.
What, nervous about?
Yeah, just
next year,
just because, like, you know, it's not very often that you get to work. I mean, once I'm in that environment, I'm sure it's fine. I just try not to think about it, learn the songs, just do that. Like, it's not like I don't feel like I'm up for it. It's just the fact that I'm just gonna be. I don't know how I'm gonna start to just fanboy out on him or something. I don't know.
Well, it's going to be interesting because they've got the 4 dates of the 2 clinics and the 2 shows, but we all get together the day
Valentine's
before.
Day.
Is it?
Yeah,
how
Valentine's
romantic.
Day. Yeah.
And we've got like a full day of playing together. Which for me, I'm like, oh, thank God. Like they're not going to just do like an afternoon rehearsal, totally. That day or whatever, and just hope that it all falls into place. But at the same time, I'm like, who the fuck am I? What have I done? And here's these two guys that have pretty much just been top tier drummers, and they've just played with everyone. They've played the biggest shows around. They know, and they've played with some of the biggest artists of all time.
Well, Vinny was on a freaking John Lennon album.
Yeah, well, I asked him about that as well, and that was random. He just like they happened to be in the same studio or something like that, and just so that was really cool hearing him say that. But like cream of the crop, and I'm like, and I'm gonna be in there. Like, all right, okay, cool. I'm just winging it, and I've always my approach with everything is I'll just give it a shot, and I'm lucky that I can just fly under the radar and get away with it. I've never seen myself as like a musician in the sense that, you know, of a high caliber or anything like that. I've just been able to just get up and play and get through it. And so I've always seen myself as that, like I just get away with it. I fly under the radar. No one notices it. And now it's like, oh, okay. All right. I better make sure I've got some chops ready to go because it's going to be...
well, I think you got to give yourself more credit, man, because I remember doing those at the Dio show that we did. I remember we rehearsed only like for 6 hours before that show or something like that. And I remember the first song that we played together was Stand Up and Shout. It was the first one that we did. And straight away with those like 4 accents or whatever, it's the start. It's like you've just nailed that sound. Like you've totally got that essence of what Jimmy Bain did on those early albums. And it's like it was true to that style of music, but you also you've definitely got your own thing going on. And I think because you're you don't really see what you really got going on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think most people sort of go through a similar thing.
Yeah, probably. I do appreciate it, but yeah, fuck. I think and look, I think for me it doesn't help that I play with people like Mark and Tim, who, at least from my point of view, like I played guitar before I played bass, and I played guitar really shit, and then could never find a band because everyone wanted to be a guitar player, and everyone was looking for a bass player. So I thought, stuff it, I'm just gonna play bass. Fuck it, I just want to play in a band more than I want to be a guitarist. And then it's just always been in the back of my head that it's just like I'm just here to be in the band, like, and it's just gone from there. But
right.
But that show with that we did, because we had Peter.
Yeah, Pete Marin. Yeah.
Man, the other day, like about a month or so ago, because I didn't realize I had him on Instagram, and I'm flicking through my feed, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, just playing like Amsterdam," and I see this like photo, and he's playing like in a freaking arena with like 10,000 people, and I'm like, "What's he doing?" He's playing for this passenger band. Yeah, it was incredible, and I had no idea.
Yeah, right.
I knew that he when I'd never met him before that time. And I knew that he'd done a lot of session work and done with, I think he did like was it an ABBA tribute?
Yeah, he was in Bjorn Again for a while.
Again, yeah. And so, yeah, obviously like a well-seasoned drummer.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't know. I'm always oblivious. I'm blonde, so I just sort of go, that's nice. And yeah, it's only been recently in the last couple of years that things would pop up every once in a while. I go, oh fuck. Jeez, he's actually, well, he does like serious stuff. He's actually pretty fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He's done all sorts of different styles of music and different things. And I was in a band called Template with him in the mid-2000s. Yeah. We actually went to school together, and he and I actually, funnily enough, I got him into the Dio stuff as well back in high school. And it was kind of not really what he was into, you know, like he was into the metal stuff for a while, and I kind of tried to push him into it, probably looking back, but you know, he's more into I don't know. Well, at the time he's sort of into the Radiohead stuff, and he's done a lot of plays with Dan Sultan, another kind of folk kind of artist in Australia, and it just seems phenomenal player, and just really really tasteful. Sort of very much plays to the song, and
he seems versatile, like just incredibly. Like even when we got together, and as you said before, like just kicking into like the first few songs, and there's a couple of times where he sort of had to stop and just work it out in his head, but he just smashed it. And for a guy that mean, he even said, he goes, yeah, I know some of the songs and whatever, and he knew a bit of it and liked it, but there's some stuff that he just didn't quite know.
Yeah, yeah.
And he picked it up so quickly and just like solid as. Like, it's incredible.
Totally.
And I go, and for me, like, no, I see myself the way that I do, and I sort of go, oh, now that's a fucking musician. That's a guy that's someone who's professional and understands what needs to be done.
Oh, so, yeah, definitely. He always gets the job done, definitely.
Yeah.
It's like, in all honesty, I just want him to play something heavier. Just something like, because he's just got these amazing chops. He's playing with Passenger, which was great, obviously cool music, but it's pretty, it's pretty sparse.
Yeah.
And I kind of want the world to hear
what he's actually capable of.
Yeah, because he played on some Toehider. Some of those, when I did those 12 EPs in 12 months, he's playing on some of those songs as well.
Yeah.
And that was the last time, that was like 2010 or whatever. That was kind of the last time I heard him play some real
sort of beefy stuff.
Yeah. Maybe one day we'll try and get something happening for when I think he comes back from that tour. I think he's come to the show.
Oh, is he?
To this. Yeah. He said he's going to try and get down. I think he's back in Australia for it.
That tour that he's on, I mean, I don't know how long it's been going for, because I've been back from Europe probably 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and he was already, at least for half the time, I was away for he was away for a month in Europe, and for the majority of Europe, I was watching him go around, and he was always either a city ahead of me or behind me, and he was sort of, and I'm going, I wonder if any of these dates match up, and none of them did. But it just seemed like this just never-ending thing where he's just constantly playing. It's just incredible.
Yeah, right.
And then just each night, it's like, just playing here tonight. It's like, oh, okay. I don't know how many people are there. 10,000, 12? Yeah, okay. No worries. That's cool. All right, segue. Europe. You played there.
I have. Yeah. I was there just over a year ago.
Yeah.
So that all came about via, I think it was 2013. I was on the Arion album.
Thank you.
Called.
I was hoping you'd pronounce it instead of me.
Yeah, so that's all right. I think that happens a lot. I wasn't sure myself because I'd read, because he's been releasing stuff since the late 90s. I think.
Yeah, a long time.
And I'd always seen the name, and it's always like, because I think the whole kind of rock opera thing was huge in the early 2000s, or it seemed to be on my radar, and I'd always seen that name, but I was never really sure how to pronounce it. And coupled with the fact that his name is Arjen, right? So the name of the project is Arion, but his name is Arjen. Some people call him Arjen. It's Arjen, Arjen Lucassen. So he read a Toehider review in a Dutch magazine, I think, and asked me to be on that album. And then he wrote an album called the Human Equation, which I think was like mid 2000s, and it had another name. I'm always nervous. Mikhail Ackerfeld.
Oh, okay,
Michael Ackerfeld. From,
Michael.
from Opeth. Apparently, Ackerfeld isn't the correct pronunciation. So if any Swedish listeners, they'll be able to help us out on that. So he was on it. Devin Townsend was on it. And James Labrie. Heather Finley from Mostly Autumn. What else am I forgetting? Yeah, so these great, amazing singers. So there was a small theater production company or something in the Netherlands wanted to put on a stage show based on the album, and they'd been working on it for a few years with the idea of getting just local Dutch guys and girls to sing on it. But I think they somehow they contacted James LeBrie just on the off chance that he may be interested in doing it, and he said, "Yeah, hell yeah, like, it sounds great." So once he was on board, they were like, "Well, let's just try and contact everyone else that was on the album."
You got a big fish, so it should be enough to just dangle the bait for everyone else.
Exactly. Yeah. I guess that's how. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing that's how it happened. And so they were able to get everybody except Michael and Devin Townsend.
Yep.
Everyone else was an original cast member, if you will. And so Ian contacted me and said, would I do the, fill the part that Devin Townsend sings on the album, which is Rage, because the album's kind of like the five of the singers are portraying this one man's emotions.
Yeah.
And Mike Baker was a singer for a band called Shadow Gallery, who played the part of the father. He unfortunately passed away, I think, maybe 5 years ago or something. I'm not exactly sure how long ago it was. So they merged both characters into one part and said, would you be interested in doing that? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't sound anything like Devin Townsend. I don't really have much resemblance in what he does other than, having a bit of humor element in my music and, it's lots of vocal layers, but I don't do the harsh vocal thing, and it's pretty different. But I was like, why would I turn down this kind of opportunity to work with, because again, James LeBrie's another one of those guys like Vinny Appice. Like, I grew up listening to Dream Theater, just, worshipping the guy. And so I was like, well, I can't say no to this. And I remember actually writing the email saying, sounds good. I just got to work out a few things, because I just kind of wanted to give myself some time to think about it. And because of, emailing from Europe, it was like 3 or 4 in the morning here. I just gotten home from a gig or whatever. And I was thought, maybe I'll just sleep on it and see if I want to do it. But I just couldn't sleep, and I just emailed him back straight away again and said, you know what, no, screw it. I'll work it out, and I'll be there, kind of thing.
No turning back now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so they sent through the understudies. Basically, they found maybe the people that they were originally intending to be part of the show. I'm not sure. They filmed the entire show, so they could send it to all of us guys and learn the parts, basically. But it was really hard to tell what was going on, because it was just a single shot, and they were sort of singing along to the album. They weren't rehearsing with the band at that point. So the rehearsals lasted a week. I flew over there. I did a small Toehider tour with the Beards, those guys. With Ricky and Sampo. Ricky Evensand was the original guy that I had playing in the Toehider live band here, but he moved back to Sweden 3 or 4 years ago now. So we spent some time rehearsing in Stockholm, and then we eventually made it down to Holland. And then that's basically where the Toehider tour finished, and I started rehearsals for the theatre Equation. And I walked in, and straight away James LeBrie's just sitting there, and it was the element of what I was saying before. It's like this thing was going on through my head of like, what am I going to be like? Am I just going to be like, oh my God, you're James LeBrie, this is amazing? But it was just straight away. It was just like, we just got a job to do. We're here to get shit done.
Hey, dude.
Yeah. So it's like, hey, my name's Mike. I play the part of Rage. And he's like, hey, man, great. And as it turns out, he was like one of the most humble people in the entire cast. Yeah. He was just there. He knew he wanted to do a good job. He it was kind of like, he was so focused and such an inspiration, because we all stayed in this massive house. Like pretty much the whole cast. The people that weren't Dutch were staying in this place. And so there were certain people who just thought, hey, let's just party all night, kind of thing. And, we're here. Because, how people sort of get when they're around, particularly if they're super sociable people, they just kind of lose track of time. And then, it's like, oh man, it's 5 a.m. We've got to be up for rehearsals at 8. This is chaos. So I would always plus because I'm quite a shy kind of person, I would always get back to the house and just beeline straight to my room and just
disappear.
and just kind of just go through the script and try to go over things in my head. And I got up to go to the bathroom one night. It was about, I don't know, it was like midnight or something. There was a couple of levels to the house, so you could hear people partying upstairs. And James was just on the ground doing exactly what I was doing, just like studying intently, just making sure he had everything. But his workload was like 5 times any of us, like, because he's the main character, obviously, and he's just got so much to remember. And we're all told that, you know, although it's a theatre show, you guys are all come from a band background, so we're not going to be expecting you to have any theatre chops. You know, we're not wanting you to dance or anything like that.
Yeah.
But even so, it was just so much to remember of where our stage entry was going to be, where we exit, because that was important for our next entry. All this stuff had to stand this particular spot for the lighting and for visually for everything to work. So there's a lot to remember. And so right up, I don't know how much I should reveal. It doesn't matter. Who cares? So right up to the opening night, it was like there was a few guys in the cast who were like this close to being fired and just getting the understudies in to play their parts because they just couldn't get it together. But thankfully that didn't happen. And yeah, the shows went great. Like it got every night just kind of we all got more confident than the previous night. And
how many shows was it?
4.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Just packed houses every night, playing at 3
consecutive nights.
Yeah, so we did 2 shows on the Saturday, I think. We did like an afternoon show, like a matinee show. Yeah.
Very theatre.
Yeah. And oh man, the band was just killer. There was a full choir on stage. I had to have this wig glued to my head every night. So every time when I go to sleep, the pillow would get stuck to my head, and they was wearing all these costumes and stuff. It really gave me a taste for it. It's like, man, why didn't I get into this stuff earlier when I was a bit younger? You know. Anyway, so those shows I thought were great, you know, and they filmed it, and then as it turned out, the footage didn't actually come out very good for whatever reason. I don't really know the reason why. I just don't think they were very prepared. They would maybe just brought in the last minute or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, and then so I was kind of feeling pretty good about it, and then I started reading reviews when the DVD came out, and it's just like, you know, like they're all in, you know, German, Dutch and stuff, and I'd read through it and just sort of see my name, so I'd hit translate and go, oh, this is going to be good, and they're like, you know, the worst part of the show was Mike Mills trying to do this Devon Townsend. It's like, oh man, what? Okay, well that's all right. That's just one review. So I read another one, and it was like, nah, this Mike guy's just not sitting with me. What he was doing just wasn't suitable for what Devon did on the albums. Like, man, okay, well, I just can't read these reviews. I just can't put myself through
How
this.
hard's that? I mean, you pretty much didn't have a hope in hell anyway, because everyone's going there with the expectation of having Devon there. Even though they know he's not going to physically be there, they're expecting it's pretty much going to be
exactly straight away they're like, all right, because I'm like only one of 2 people, and the other person that couldn't be there was Michael Ackerfeld, and he was replaced by Anneke van Giersbergen, who already has this massive. She's already well established, and you know, so I was the only like no name guy in the whole cast, you know. So there was already this kind of weird expectation.
And they're brutal as well, especially the Germans. Sorry for the people that are German. But like, I just think people they're so blunt.
I think Devon Townsend fans are really hardcore fans. You know, like they're just really passionate about what he does. And for many people, that album, like his work defined that album. Like it was just like such a massive part of that record. So, but I just couldn't even impersonate him, even if I wanted to. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because it's so stylistic and what he does is so unique. Like I just had to go in and do it the way that I normally would approach things. So it was interesting. But for one reason or another, I've been asked to be a part of the next one, which I'm feeling way better about because I'm going to be singing songs that I was on. You know, it's kind of like it's a bit
big difference
easier
there.
stress. Yeah.
And it's funny because when I think either you were tagged in something or because I hadn't liked the pages, but it showed up in the news feed on Facebook, and he was announcing like each singer or something that's on the next album, and he did like something that's like, oh, guess who this person is, and it was like a soundbite of you singing, and reading through the comments, and it was like it was a couple hundred comments or whatever, and everyone's like, oh, it's got to be Mike, and mind you, there was a big Aussie bandwagon that all jumped in and go,
That was it?
Yeah, fuck yeah, Mike, yeah, Mike's a legend, yeah. But there was heaps of people on there that were just going, oh man, that's definitely Mike Mills, that's Mike Mills. So I thought, oh shit, obviously doing good things.
Yeah,
So,
well, I think that was doing the last two Arion albums. I guess people and Aryan is a total sweetheart, and he's always super vocal about being a fan of what I'm doing. And I think somebody asked him what his favorite album of 2014 was, and he said it was the Toehider album that I released then. What Kind of Creature Am I? So it's like he's just been super into what I'm doing. I think it's because he's a huge Queen fan, and he kind of feels that influence there.
That's cool.
Yes. So the new album hopefully gets released early-ish next year.
Have you done anything with it yet?
Yeah, so I've
what he put up online, was that the final? Is that after you've already done your stuff?
Yeah, so that was some of it.
Okay.
That were just like little snippets here and there, but that was still in demo mode. Like I think that was all still drum machine and stuff.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But for The Theory of Everything, which is the 2013 album, he wrote all of the parts that he wanted me to sing. But this time around, he's asked me to come up with my own stuff throughout the album, in varying ways. Like sometimes he'll just throw a chord progression at me and just say, "Just do something here. Here's a basic idea of what I want the lyrics to be." And then other times it would just be no chords, just like the sounds of machines and stuff. Because my character's a robot on the on the album.
That ties in quite good with your last EP.
Yeah. And the character's name is the TH1, which stands for Toehider 1.
That's so
cool. Pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So I think, without giving too much away, I think that my character is going to be incorporated into the show in September. See, because the next show in September isn't going to be based off one single album.
Right.
It's a new story featuring the music of all of his work.
Previous stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So you don't have to, you can just say, no, I can't tell you. But when he comes to you and says, all right, well, I want you to write something from a music business point of view, does that equate to you now have a songwriting credit, or what's the go with that?
Yeah, I will have credits on the album for the parts that I've written. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was really important to him. He's very much a guy that gives credit when credit's due. So yeah, it's really cool. It's really nice that he's got a lot of faith in what I do as well, which is great.
And obviously it's like put a spotlight on Toehider.
Oh yeah,
no doubt you've had so many
like,
people.
I think 90% of the fan base and album sales, everything was generated from this Arion thing.
Yeah, right.
It's got to be.
Oh, it's crazy. It's just, I guess it just goes to show you just right place and right time, and you do your, like, I was thinking about this the other day. I've been doing like the Lord thing for, I don't know, be 11 years. And especially earlier on the piece where I hadn't had a lot of band experience and I was still learning as I went. And I was lucky because I came into something that was semi-established and Tim was already writing and he had a reputation. So I sort of just rode the coattails, and I still am. But early on, I was very green, and I would always be trying to get, like, I'd be always hustling other people to try and get an opportunity, which
Yeah.
I still believe in doing it, but I was always worried about trying to tell someone about what I was doing.
Yeah.
And
Oh man, yeah.
and after a while, when you talk to someone, they go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you sort of realize, oh, that person gets that same pitch or that same request every day or every week or whatever it might be. And why am I any different to every other
Dude,
loser that goes up to
exactly.
me?
Yeah, like the amount of people that have contacted me, singers, saying, like I'm a massive fan of what you do. I've sent demos and stuff to Aryan because that's my dream to be on an Arion album, and I'd never sent him anything. Like I listened to the Human Equation, and I think I listened to most of his stuff in some way or another, and I remember thinking, not exclusive to Arion, but I do remember thinking like a similar thing with the Dio guitar player. I remember thinking, oh, it'd be cool to be a part of something like that, to be a part of one of these European metal operas. And then and then checking out these guys that contacted me, like they've like post videos and demos and stuff on YouTube and online. And these guys have got monster, amazing voice in it. And it's the same thing. It's like, what sets me apart from these guys? Like, it's just got to be luck. I don't know what else it would be.
It's luck, but what I reckon it is also is that you do your own thing and you're not out there. I think it's good to have an element where you sort of out there and making sure that people know who you are. But most of the time you build a reputation by just being really good at doing what you do and not worrying about so much trying to impress everybody. And so I spent so long trying to impress everybody about what I do, what we do, and then realizing, oh, well, what makes me different to every other person, especially when it comes to Europe as well. Needle in a haystack over there. We don't have any power metal or heavy metal bands are over there. And then I sort of relaxed a bit and went, you know what, just do what we do. Just keep plowing through, write good music, release it, to do what we do. And yeah, network's important, but not putting so much pressure on just annoying the fuck out of people to get them to listen to who you are. Because after a while, and this is the example that you've got now, is that somebody has discovered your music for you doing what you do. And because of that, it's luck, but you've put yourself in that opportunity by just working hard at just doing the Toehider.
Yeah, totally.
So it's...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's, I guess, like I was never any good with the trying to contact people and saying, like, because every time I did it, like the few times that I did it, I either get no response, or I remember, I do remember actually sending one thing to a guy. I think he was releasing things under the name Frame Shift, and he had Sebastian Bach on one of his records and stuff. And he did this call out for a singer for the next thing, and I remember sending him something that I'd sung on, and he basically wrote back and just tore it to pieces, saying, "I'm just not really, I'm just not into your voice, and I just think it's horrible." And even when I started doing the Toehider thing,
what an asshole!
I would send the I remember finishing the first Toehider EP, and sending it out to a bunch of labels, and it was always pretty much the same response. Like, this is just too weird. Like, they see this thing with the massive toe for a head, and like they're like, we can't sell this. What are you, crazy, kind of thing? So I just gave up, and it's like, well, I'm just going to keep. It's the same thing. I'm just going to keep doing this, and if people don't like it, fuck them. Like, if people like it, then that's great.
That's it. And the thing is, it starts off as weird because no one's used to it. They've never seen it before. And then you start focusing on your little circle of people, and that circle gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then eventually the people that you want to pay attention will see, oh, actually people actually care about this. Now I want to be a part of it because there's some noise around it or whatever.
Exactly. People, I'm going to choose my words carefully here, but I think people need to, well, not everyone, but a lot of people need to be told what's good. I think and I think that's exactly what's happened with me with Aryan, is that people, it's like you'd be surprised about how many people all of a sudden were like, oh yeah, Toehider, I've been following that guy for years. In Australia, it's like, well, I've never seen you at a show. Like I've never seen a post of you on any social media.
I see who orders every CD. I don't see your name against
exactly,
it.
Yeah. It's like, well, I love that guy. I've been following him for ages. Oh, it's frustrating.
And then you just sort of go,
but it is what it is, you know.
You go, oh, well, at least they're following me now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, it's crazy how that works. I mean, we always tried to pitch to European labels, and they always had trouble with trying to pigeonhole us, because we would have like an album worth of music, and then we'd have like this, you know, really stupid song in there that's got like sort of tongue-in-cheek lyrics, and we've got this, you know, sort of melodic death metal song and something with black metal guitars. Then we got this epic sort of Conan style Viking sort of thing, and then like an old school traditional power metal song. And so they listen to it and go, I don't know where to pigeonhole that. And we just go, just call it metal. It's fine. Now it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, right.
And so we'd always get the response back saying, oh, it's just not what we're looking for. Or a couple of labels actually came back and said that they had difficulty trying to put us in some sort of genre or niche genre. Yeah. But most of them said, oh, that's not what we're looking for. And at that point in time, you could see the types of bands that were getting signed. It's waves. They're looking for the trends. And it's not like it is here where there's not really any metal labels anymore for the most part. There's a few tiny little independents, but you know, in Europe, it's like dealing with a Sony or, you know, Warner or whatever, where they're more or less major labels, and they're looking for what sells and what's popular or what they can make popular. So we've had times where we've sort of pitched something and they go, oh, it's not what we're looking for at the moment. And then the next 6 months they sign 100 goth industrial bands that are playing the worst music in the world. And you go, oh, but then you realize that, well, that's what's selling at the moment. So they'll go through that, then they'll drop them all. And they'll look for the next thing. And then deathcore's been really big, so they go through all that. And so you have to sort of wait for the next power metal or melodic metal wave, and then hope that you can jump onto that.
Associated with that in some respects.
That's it. So we always say to each other, go, just do what we do, and you know, always make sure that we're visible, and we're pretty good with the whole like social media sort of stuff and whoring ourselves out online and whatever. But you know, just do what we do and not be sort of not letting anything else dictate what we do. And you know, if the opportunity comes, then we can take it and go from there. But I spent too many years just trying to convince people to like us. And just realizing that I was just doing it backwards. You know, all these guys that have done so well have become lucky, but it's because they've just busted their balls initially, and that's just got them into a position where they're a little bit more visible and there's more chance of luck. So,
well, I've completely given up on the idea of being on some sort of label, I think, unless they come like running, chasing after me, because it's like, if I feel like, you know, the thing about Toehider is that it's always just been this massive experiment of like, sometimes, I don't know how else to put it, but it's kind of like how I get some sort of sick pleasure out of testing people's patience. Like if I want to write a super heavy song and then write a folk album the next time, then I'll do that because that's what's exciting to me. And that's what I'm listening to. That's where my head's at. And if I want to do it, and I'll do it. And people say, well, you know, maybe you should do it under different side projects' names, or like different, like different projects. Like, no, you know, that makes about as much sense as living my life in different characters. You know, I'm just, I just do what I think is right. And if people like it, then great. And if they don't like it, then great as well.
But I think it's, I mean, when you first started doing like the initial stuff, and I remember the Toehider song coming out, and then I had the same reaction as most people, going, what the hell is this dude with the toe for a head? And I got no idea what's going on. And I remember the other thing was, and this is where, going right back to what you said earlier about dubbing Power Slave.
Yeah.
And getting that little skip.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the Toehider song where it just stops abruptly.
Yeah.
I thought that I downloaded a shitty MP3. And so I got so frustrated with the song that I stopped listening to it for ages. I go, I can't do this anymore. And I tried to download it, the same thing. I go, oh, it's like corrupt, or my computer's shit. And then it wasn't, I reckon it would be at least 12 months later where I came back to it, and it must have been like on the Ozprog forums, and someone had just made a brief mention somewhere as like a side comment. I went, oh,
yeah, right.
you moron. So I went back and listened to it, and I'm like, I get it now. I get it. I get the humor. And then I think you did a really good job with that whole 12 EPs over 12 months, because I think that was, you almost, I mean, whether you were doing it intentionally or not, you're almost sort of setting that tone with people to say, this is not just one thing. It's a whole range of different things. And each month you had a completely different style or approach or theme. And so by the end of the 12 months, and then you put them on the CDs and release them, people got it.
Yeah.
And that core loyal little fan base that you'd built over that time, where they just got it and understood it. So I think it was easier, at least from my point of view anyway, for you to be able to then go on to the albums after that.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I think it was a good idea to do that early on, to kind of, like you say, just show people that it's not a band. It's in a traditional sense, at least. It's kind of like a collaboration between myself and Salty, but also it's just like trying out a bunch of stuff, because it's like I listen to so much music, and because I work full time as a musician as well. It's just like it's everything. And there's so many different kinds of things that excite me that sometimes I just hear something and I'm like, I really want to try doing something like that. So yeah, this is the perfect vehicle for doing that.
It's the best thing that you're controlling it as well. So you're putting it all out there. It's on your terms, your rules, and like you get the feedback from people that listen to it and whatnot. But in the end, you're ultimately making that decision as to what you put out there. And as you said, if you've got an idea that comes into your head, you don't have to go, well, it doesn't quite fit into what I'm doing. Maybe I'll just, I don't know, hum into a dictaphone and just hope that it stays there for the next 5 years when I come back to it, because I'm too busy focused on this project now.
Yeah.
You can just spit it out and go from there.
Yeah, definitely. Which means that the because there's not a lot of people that will endure that kind of thing. But the benefit is that the people that do have the patience to, and the understanding and the acceptance of not really knowing what to expect, is that they just get really invested in what I'm doing, which is interesting.
It's what I've noticed in the last few years is that there's so many more bands that are doing sort of prog rock, but in this sense where they're really sort of doing a whole range of different styles, like you've been doing. Like even going to prog power and playing prog power, it's just been insane how eclectic the lineups have been now. Like years ago, it was like power metal and prog metal and all that sort of stuff. But now it's been, I mean, the night that we played, we had, we opened up, then we had Stream of Passion from the Netherlands, who was sort of like female fronted symphonic.
Marcella was in the show that I was in. Yeah. Amazing vocalist. Yeah. Really, really beautiful human being.
And then we had Spock's Beard.
Yeah, right. Cool.
And then Dragon Force.
Oh.
And so I remember looking at the lineup going, have they gone mad? Like, how does this work?
Yeah.
And, we were the first band, and we all had, apart from Dragon Force had an hour and a half, but we all had hour sets. And we went on at 5 or 5:30 or something like that. And the place was packed straight away.
Yep.
And I was sort of going, I don't know how, like looking at the other nights were pretty mixed up, but ours was really mixed up. And I don't know how this is going to work, but people dug it. And,
cool.
And I've been to this particular festival the last 2 years and talking to people, and these guys are just so, I'm trying to think of a better word, but I'm so nerdish about their music. And I mean that in the best way possible, because they know everything about every band, every artist, what they've done, side projects, everything like that. And they're so open-minded about their music. There's only a very small percentage of the people that go to this festival anyway that are sort of very much, power metal, or very much prog, or that's it. These people are so open-minded. and then going back to here and seeing sort of the bands that have done really well over the last couple of years. I mean, that whole prog scene's insane now. And I think it's just brought so much more awareness where I just think music listeners are so much more open-minded than they probably were even 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I think for what you're doing and what you have done, I just think it's going to get better because more as people, it's not so much that the more people will become open-minded. I think the people that are already open-minded will start to discover and go back and look at what's already been released. And I think the fans will just increase because, especially like overseas as well, it's just Europe's always been that place that's been it's segregated in its niche genres, but I think overall there's been, because there's such a volume of fans over there that you can be so popular playing the most niche style of music. There's that many
densely
people.
populated,
Yeah, so I think in Europe there's always that opportunity. You just got to get your name out there. So I think the perceived problem of having so many different styles of music on an album or a series of releases doesn't matter so much as long as you can find that group. You're okay. But yes, I've noticed a lot more in the last few years, and especially back home as well, which is crazy with some of the because Toehider is still on Birds Road. Yeah. So that would have obviously, I would assume, has done reasonably well in Australia, just getting you a bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Mike Solo is another guy that's almost solely responsible for getting the word out because he's so great at it and I'm so not good at it. And he's just he's just one of these amazing guys who just works tirelessly promoting this kind of stuff. And I actually think that he's had a lot to do with the reason why there's such a big progressive scene.
Oh, definitely.
Here in Australia. He's just the nicest guy, and he just doesn't really seem to have any ulterior motives. Like, you work with people and they really just want to get their own band like out there more. So they set stuff up and they just everything that they do is for selfish
with their intentions.
For selfish purposes. Yeah. But he's just the opposite. He hears things and if he likes them, he's like, I just want people to have the same opportunity that I've had to hear this. It comes from such a great place.
I've ordered a few things from him over the years, and I was always amazed with what he would put in these packages, and it was so simple. And no one, I mean, if anything, I think he influenced the way that we sort of do our merch and we send things out. Like I can't remember, I must have got the Troll Hogan CD or something like that, and he had all these. It was nothing fancy. You just had a whole bunch of flyers stacked in there. And some of it was just like it almost was like he'd been at his work printer and printed off a whole bunch of like coloured copies and whatever and just sliced them up and chucked them in there. And some were a bit more sort of pro-done little quarter page size flyers. But for me, like I get excited when I see anything that I wasn't expecting in there. It could be just shit in there, but I don't care. It's like, oh, well, what's this?
Yeah, totally.
But it was so cool. And I went, you know what? This is so simple. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that would get excited over just extra little things. And then he really sort of influenced the way that I started sending out our merch. And so it got to the point where I put flyers in there, little stupid things, little notes for people. And then I did start doing shout-outs for bands and getting people, I know so many bands that have got boxes of CDs that sit there for years and just never sell. They print 500 copies and they sell 100 of them and then they can't get rid of them. No one wants them. So it's like, well, give me a bunch and then I'll just give them out. So, and we still do it a little bit. It's sort of, I've been a bit lazy with it the last few months, but done that for so many bands now. And it's just so cool. And the feedback I got from people going, you've not only sent me what I've like a t-shirt or whatever, but I've got this free CD and I've discovered this band and I've always made sure there's Australian bands as well. So it's got a bit of a homegrown thing and helping each other out. And
for sure.
It was great. And I got it all from him. And, we get something out of it because hopefully people will come back and keep ordering stuff because they get little goodies and things on top. The person who orders the stuff loves it. They get to listen to something, they get something for free. And the band who had the box of CDs collecting dust in their shed have got an opportunity for it to go out somewhere and potentially, win over some more fans. So,
totally.
But I'll give credit to him, absolutely. And I kicked up a little bit of a notch after the things that he sent in the post, but he had the right idea. I just thought so simple, and I think a lot of, from what I hear, other people in the scene that talk about him, especially in those circles, he is just grassroots and seems to be without the fanfare and just is all about hard work. And compared to a lot of other people, when you said before, where they've got their own agenda and they're trying to build a profile or a name for themselves above everybody else, he does it from such a genuine point of view, and it's just old school approach. It just seems to be a really sort of old school way of just hard work, and obviously it pays off. I mean, bands that are doing well right now, I think the majority of them have been with his label or have been associated with him or are still on his label. Just he's
sort of working behind the scenes outside of his own Burs Road with them.
He's got this empire. It's just incredible.
It's
so cool.
Super cool. Yeah.
So last segue, because I'm going to look at the time. Oh yeah, that's not too bad. See, we managed to talk a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Mike was drumming in the band.
Yeah.
So are you completely solo at the moment, or have you now got some new?
I've got okay. So what happened was the lineup: Lachlan, Barkley, Amy Campbell, and Mike Solo, and myself. It had been active since 2013. I think Ricky moved back to Sweden in 2013. It's when I initially had the idea of just using like drummers depending on which city we were playing. So I worked with Jeff Irish who used to play in Killigiller's Horse for some shows that we did in Queensland, and I got Mike to play on some shows in Sydney, and I had a guy named Tom Mann who played on some Melbourne shows, and we did Canberra with Tom as well, I think. And at that point, Lachlan was busy with family stuff, and there was a bunch of shows that he actually couldn't do, so we went out and did it as a three-piece. And then, but sort of that around that time, it was I don't know. People just tend to start to need to do stuff that they need to do, and it was getting harder and harder to rehearse. And plus, working with Mike, because Mike was just killing it on every gig, and he's always super instrumental with booking shows and stuff. So it always just made sense to get Mike to play on these shows. But it was like, it just next to him, he was always super cool about coming down a day early and rehearsing, and he sort of did everything he could. But it was kind of like, because maybe it's the material that I'm writing at the moment, and listening to some of the songs, I don't know. It just sort of feels like I want to be in a position where I can rehearse on a weekly basis, or at least a semi-weekly basis, with some guys, and really kind of honor the amount of work that I've put into the recording side of things. It just got hard to rehearse, and there was people in the band who were sort of gravitating. What's the opposite of gravitating? What is it? Just moving
Repelling?
further.
No, that sounds bad though.
Moving further and further away from playing music anyway. So, and just family life and all of the usual kind of things tend to crop up. And plus, there was a point where I didn't really know, as you probably have felt as well, I guess a lot of musicians and artists go through the same thing of like, how, I don't know if I can keep doing this, because it costs a lot of money to keep afloat, and it seems like a lot of work for for some of the time it feels like for very little reward, So I was really confused for a while. I didn't really know what to do, but I sort of come to the conclusion that I really need to do it. It's not really for myself anymore, because I think there's a lot of people who still want to see it and still want to hear these songs performed live, And plus, I didn't really want to. I didn't want to just be the guy that just releases music and doesn't play live. But firstly, because I really enjoy playing live for the most part. but also because I didn't want to seem like I was just copying Arjen because he doesn't, this is the first time that he's kind of, well, I think there's talk of him performing in this show as well, but generally he doesn't like to play.
Yeah.
So I've got, I've pretty much solidified the next lineup for next year. We're going to start rehearsing in the new year, and so it's all really exciting. I've got I met these amazing players. I'll announce them early next year, and hopefully we're going to be able to get out and play more often, because I think we did like 2 shows this year. So that's the plan.
The next chapter.
Yeah, and plus because when I went over in 2015 to Europe, I had Sampo and Ricky in Sweden. It's kind of cool to keep it a little bit open like that. So I've got an Australian band and a European band, which worked really well. Everybody gets along really great. Not everybody's met everyone, obviously, but
certainly makes things much more cost effective.
Yeah. Well, there's that, definitely. Yeah. But I'm just a real. I'm a total slut when it comes to musicians. Like, I just feel like you just learn so much from playing with so many different people, I'm really energized by that. Like, people used to talk about, getting back to Rainbow, about how Richie Blackmore was such a control freak and he'd fire members and he'd have a different band on every album. I think that's probably the same factor. It just needs that new blood, that just sort of sense of re-energization.
We have it when we get someone new in the band, and like we're all jaded and getting over it, and then someone comes in and they're like, "Oh, this
super
is
enthusiastic,
great!" And you go, "Really? Is it?" And you're like, "Oh, maybe it is. Okay, no worries." Suddenly you get another burst of energy for however long until it comes time that someone else wants to move on, and then you go through that change again. But far out. I certainly hear you. I mean, it'd be very interesting to see who the next group of Toehiders are.
Yeah.
Are they people that are already semi-established, like people that would?
Yeah. They've both been in some pretty cool bands, and they've been around.
Cool.
It seems like I don't know what the scene's like in Sydney, but at least the part of the scene that I'm here in Melbourne is that everybody seems to play with everyone at some point, which is cool. So exciting times. Hopefully we'll be able to get out and do some more shows. I'm sort of halfway, not halfway, maybe a quarter of the way. I don't know how to gauge it, depending on how you think of it. I've written the album in my head, but I haven't recorded everything yet. So
that sounds like
hopefully that's
Tim. I don't get it. I don't understand how you can retain so much information.
Oh, right. Well, yeah.
He's like, I've written like 4 songs. I'm like, oh, cool. Do you want to?
Can I hear them?
And he's like, nah, they're just up here. I've got to get them out.
Yeah.
Right. I might have a riff. And I'll forget about it like 2 days later and go, oh well, never mind. So, but I guess that's what makes some of us quite great, and others of us are sort of we come along for the ride, I think. So,
well, look, I don't know. Like, it's as much depends on how you look at it, because I really envy you in what you do. Exactly what you were saying. You just love to get up and just be along for the ride.
Yeah.
It's like you contribute a little bit to the Lord stuff, don't you?
Yeah,
in terms of writing stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like not like in the sense of where Tim has these complete songs and probably obsesses over every single little thing, and it's like it's a nightmare. Sometimes it's just like it's like being sick almost. So sometimes I do fantasize actually, and that's actually what's great about being a part of this Arion thing, is because to a certain degree I can just be the singer and just get bossed around and being told what to do. And I love it. And I suppose having that sense of balance is good, but yeah.
It definitely helps, I would assume. I mean, it's not an easy process, but you can do a lot of recording here. So you can get you can track stuff, you can get some ideas out. So that's probably a big positive. I mean, you're still going to have a lot of it in your head, and that's a painstaking, long process to be able to try and get half of it out the way that it's in your head. But I would assume that now doing it for a few years, where you've really, I assume you've gotten used to that process of self-recording and having the discipline. I think that's the biggest thing that I could never do. It's like, I'll turn on Sonar and plug it in to record a riff, and then something doesn't work right or it jumps. So I go, fuck it, that's it, off.
Yeah, right.
I'll go somewhere else and find something else to distract me, and I'll never come back to it for 6 months or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've seen what you've done over the years, and I compare you with Tim, because that's the closest I've got as a comparison. And you guys have the patience and I think because you've got the ideas and you need to get them out, you've given yourself the patience to be able to just start to build them and slowly record and get little pieces out and then go back and rework them and scrap things and
Well, I think I don't know what it's like for Tim, but certainly for, again, getting back to the Toehider thing being more of an experiment like than anything else, a lot of that just doing everything yourself mentality came from just being sick, getting sick of paying for studio time and it never sounding anything close to what you were hoping it would sound like. Or even, because with Template, I remember going in to a studio and we had this idea that we wanted it to sort of sound like these Mars Volta and Muse albums and it just didn't sound anything like it. It just sounded like, I remember listening to it thinking, like, we've just sunk God knows how many tens of thousands of dollars on this project and it just sounds like balls. Just like it makes much more sense to invest even half that amount of money in gear and then just practice recording, like even if you're just recording covers for a while and if you've got little song ideas that you have, and that's again doing
you
that.
Just learn as you go, basically. Yeah.
And then doing that 12 albums thing was a really good push because I announced it and had very little idea of what I was going to do. But it's like, I've got to do it because now I've told people I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
I hate that. I hate telling people I'm going to do something. And like, I haven't put any work in yet. Yeah. Now I've got to commit to it.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
good though. I mean, it obviously is, it worked out and it's for the best though, because, I mean, I see the same thing. Like the things that I actually achieve and I'm proud of are the things that I've actually held myself accountable for.
Yeah.
So, that's cool. Well, that's pretty good.
Get the hell out of my house.
I'm going to do an intro and an outro, so I'll plug all the stuff. But your last EP or your latest EP, mainly songs about robots. I thought I'd fuck that up.
Actually, I did it. I'll give you one before you leave. I did a little covers EP called Mainly Songs About Rowboats because we did this gig on the. You did the Hell on the Bay thing a couple of years ago. Yeah, we did that this year. Yeah. So we just released it for that gig and I haven't given it to anyone else. So it's a super exclusive one.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Awesome. Well, I'll plug everything, but thanks for letting me stay at your place again for a little bit.
Pleasure. No, you're welcome anytime.
We'll catch up again in February.
Yeah. This is going to be awesome, isn't it? Oh, man.
All right. Cheers.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that. Very cool to catch up with Mike and have a bit of a chinwag, and good to do a podcast face-to-face. It's been quite some time since I've done one like that. I've been accustomed to the telephone podcast for quite some time just due to location and schedule and whatnot. But I had a great opportunity to stop by his place while I'm down here in Melbourne and have a chat. So it worked out really good. And I do enjoy the face-to-face podcast. It's great excuse to catch up and have a chat. So I'll definitely be looking to do more of them in the new year. Now, a bit of housekeeping very quickly. Drum Wars, the Apathy Brothers tour in February. Now, tickets for this are available through hardlinemedia.net. There's also meet and greet packages available. Now, there's 4 dates. 2 of them are drum clinics and 2 of them are actual shows, which Mike and I will be playing on. The shows are pretty much a showcase of songs from both Carmine and Vinny's careers. So there's going to be, without spoiling the set list, there's stuff from Sabbath, Dio, Ozzy, Rod Stewart. Who else we got? Blue Murder. There's a few others, but anyway, it's really cool. Like a really good set list. I think anyone who's a fan of that era and those bands and those artists or the Appice Brothers, I would strongly recommend you coming out. So very quickly, these dates. Thursday, February 16th in Sydney at the Factory Theatre, which will be the Drum Clinic. The following night, the 17th, will be at the same venue, the Factory Theatre in Sydney, but it will be the Drum Wars show. Following that, the 18th of February, Saturday the 18th, in Melbourne will be at Max Watts, and that'll be the Drum Wars show. And then on the Sunday, February 19th, at Croxton Band Room in Melbourne will be the final Drum Clinic. So if you're a big fan, if you're a drummer, a big fan of the Appice Brothers or a big fan of Dio or any of those fantastic bands that they've been a part of, I would highly recommend you attend either a show or a clinic or both, or if you want to make a weekend out of it, you can jet up and down the coast and catch all 4 dates. We'll be hanging around, so definitely come up and say hi. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So tickets available through hardlinemedia.net. As I said before, meet and greet packages are available, and there's also combo deals as well. So if you want to buy a ticket for the clinic and the show, I believe there's some sort of combo discount available. There's probably some opportunities later down the track to buy some tickets directly from myself, but we'll leave that pending for the time being. But if you're keen to snap up a ticket quickly, hardlinemedia.net is the place to go. If you want to support Mike, definitely reach out to him on all social media platforms by searching for Toehider, Toehider, and you can check him out all over YouTube, Facebook, Bandcamp. Definitely go onto Bandcamp and get his latest EP, which is mainly songs about robots, featuring Vinny Appice on drums. So it's a nice little link in there with Vinny. Very cool. So check all that stuff out and make sure you reach out to Mike. Let him know what you thought of the podcast or his music, and send your love to him. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. What's coming up next? Who knows? Because I'm recording these so far in advance, I've got no idea what's going on. But I hope that will be another fantastic podcast guest next week. If not, just stay tuned and they'll pop up when they pop up. But anyway, take care. Oh, and very quickly before I go, you thought I was going to miss it. If you want to support the podcast, and I'm such a whore, I know, and you shop through Amazon portal on andysocial.net, you can jump on there and click on the portal link and then shop on Amazon as per normal. But the benefit of doing that is that a small percentage of what you spend will go directly to me to help fund the podcast. So your shopping experience stays exactly the same. You're not spending any more or any less, unfortunately, but you are helping my podcast by using my affiliate link. So it's a great way of indirectly supporting the podcast. I only get a very, very, very tiny little bit of money per order, but when a lot of you are doing it, which you have been, it definitely adds up, and it helps with the monthly costs of hosting and gear, and even getting around a bit every once in a while to chat to people. And the more that I can fund this podcast, the more money I've got to spend to sort of get around and make this podcast bigger and better. So I do thank you for those people that have been using that portal link. You can be really sneaky and smart about it and actually only go to andysocial.net once and just save, do a right click on the Amazon portal link and just save the URL, and then just save that as a favorite in your toolbar so you don't have to keep going to my website. Although, you could go there often if you want to as well, but I like to cater for everyone. Okay. That's it, I promise. Thank you so much, as always. I really appreciate it. Keep making contact with me and giving me suggestions and feedback and what you like. And don't bother telling me what you don't like, because I'm doing this for free. So, yeah, whatever. All right, guys, take care. Another one coming soon. And thanks again. Ta-ta. You're ready.